I'm gonna stop you right there. This video is not clickbait. We actually have found a way to play PlayStation on the Switch. A big trend in gaming right now is the idea of cloud streaming. The idea that instead of having to install a game on hardware to play it, you can just play it remotely through a server. And oftentimes when we talk about it, it's the concept of doing it on your computer or on a phone, but something that we've kind of thought about in the past that'd be really cool is, what if there was a handheld console that let you do that, like the Switch? Well, it's actually something you can do by taking advantage of Android on the Switch. This is something we've covered before, of the idea of getting Android running on Switch. We're gonna do a quick refresher on how exactly it works, but if you guys want an in-depth guide on how it all goes down, we'll have that linked down below in the description. Now, a couple things before walking through the entire setup. For this to work, you do need to have a certain older model of Switch, as well as not be running the latest firmware. There are guides you can find online that show how old you need. You can even enter your serial number to find out. This one in particular happens to be old enough. And the first step is to put the Switch in recovery mode. And the way you do that is by making use of a little tool like this that goes into the right Joy-Con's slide rail. And once you have that in there, you hold the volume up button and then tap the power button. And then you just wait a while for it to boot up in recovery mode. If you notice the screen turns on and everything's all black, that means you actually did it right and it's working. So once we have it in recovery mode, we plug it into our PC setup where we've got this already running, so we can inject the payload to set it up as an Android device. So, says we're good to go. We got the green light. Let's go ahead and inject the payload. And there we go. After doing that, you can see on our screen that we have this little setup ready to go, and then give that a little bit of time to go up and running. Again, this is just going over the kind of setup of how you go to set it up each and every single time that you want to be running in it. What's interesting to note about this is that all of the OS right now, the entire Android aspect of this, is running off of the SD card that we have in the Switch. So as far as the Switch is concerned, it's still just a regular Switch. We're just forcing it to boot from the SD card to go into this Android mode. And this part does take a little while, so. Aha! This is basically the halfway point. You still gotta wait a while after this. And there we go, we have Android up and running. So again, this is something that we've covered before and shown being able to set up. Back when we did that time, we just tried some different Android games and checked out what apps worked. But in this situation, we're gonna take it a step further and use this as a starting point to make this a remote play machine for PS4. Now, the first thought here would be to just download the PlayStation Remote Play app and try and use it through there. And supposedly, there are ways to actually make that work. It didn't for us. Working that app just did not work. We were able to download it, but actually running it did not work. So instead, we're making use of a secondary unofficial app that we found that were downloaded from their website directly called PS Streamer. It's stylized, doesn't matter. Anyways, the point is, we made use of that app to be able to start actually connecting to our PS4 and use remote play. Now, we've already set this up and configured it to connect to my PlayStation that we have set up here with the account. And I don't think the mic picked it up, but you can actually hear the power on signal from across the room. And there we go. We are on the home screen for my PS4 Pro. Let's go ahead and actually switch over so you can see on the TV screen that this is all running. So I went ahead and launched God of War on the Switch, and we've got it set up on the PS4 Pro. So this is the PS4 Pro we're running it off of, and you can see it happening on the TV, but the controls are coming from me playing here on the Switch. Now you might notice that the image here on the Switch is not great. It's definitely not 720p. It's not running at the maximum the screen can support, and the frame rate is not a smooth 30. Part of this does rely on the fact of how strong your internet connection is, and where we are right now isn't actually the best place in the office. But this is showing that we are in fact controlling this PS4 through here. Another aspect is that we are not using the official Remote Play app, we are using that PS Streamer instead. Now, just like with the Remote Play app though, we are able to use on-screen control, so you see the overlay here of all the main buttons for a PS4 controller, and that's allowing us to control the game. Now, this does work like the Remote Play app in that it does use an overlay of the buttons for the PlayStation, at least once you've been touching the screen, and it gives you the ability to control, but honestly, it's not the best way to play most games, except maybe very basic RPGs, so using a controller is much more preferable. And PS Streamer does have a built-in way to map controls using your favorite Bluetooth controller. Now, we tried getting the Joy-Cons to work, and it only went about halfway. We can get buttons to work, so if I want to attack with the shoulder button, it's fine. The big problem is the sticks don't work, so I can't actually move around. So not being able to use sticks is definitely not great, but thankfully, using PS Streamer, we were able to connect other controllers using Bluetooth and get those to work. So you actually, using the Switch, just like an Android tablet, you go into the connection settings and connect a Bluetooth controller of your choice. For example, right now, we're gonna use an 8-bit DOS SN30 Plus, and we've already got it set up on Android. So now just reconnected it and it controls fine. It's weird watching the PlayStation screen because everything's happening at a delay, but on this one, it makes sense. So it's actually really handy that by using PS Streamer, we are able to not only play PlayStation games on the Switch, but we're able to use a controller as well, like this one right here. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking right now, looking at the fact that this is a Switch, what happens if you dock it? And the answer is, it works, it's just, well, let me just show you. If you haven't seen this shirt before, this is actually an original design we're selling on our merch store, which I'll have linked down below in the description. We've got a couple new designs on the way real soon as well. So if you want to check those out, we actually have a promotion right now. You can get 15% off if you use the code GENESIS. So we just docked the Switch, and if you didn't see before when we did the original Android video, when you dock it in this way, it's not actually putting the Switch in docked mode, but it is pushing a signal out to the TV. So it's keeping things at that 720p, sub 720p in this situation signal, but it's just having it fill the screen. So right now, this is the PlayStation, looks great. Let's go ahead and swap over to the Switch. There we go. Yeah, so you're getting that considerably lower resolution on a giant screen, which is not good. Now, of course, just doing this in the first place kind of defeats the purpose of this entire experiment, which is, you know, having access to a handheld Switch for playing PlayStation games, but it's just really interesting to see that you can actually do this in full circle, and it's, yeah, just don't do this. Yeah, like, this looked bad on the Switch screen, but it was still, you know, you could make sense of it, your eyes kind of compensated a little bit. Blowing it up this large, yeah. Anyways, let's go somewhere else and try some different controllers. So along with moving downstairs and actually getting a better internet connection, we're also trying a different controller type. This time we're using a Switch Pro controller. It's really easy to use a variety of different Bluetooth capable controllers. We use the SN30 Pro Plus, this controller, and even an Xbox One controller. All you have to do is go into the Android died while talking. All you have to do is go into the Android settings, go over to Bluetooth devices, pair a new device, and connect whatever controller you want. Now, I know the logical thing to use with this would be a DualShock 4, but sadly, because of the outdated version of Android that we are running on the Switch, that is not an option. So you can use a Switch Pro controller, which is great. You can use an Xbox controller, you can use a number of other Bluetooth ones, but you cannot use the DualShock 4 for the remote play. And apparently there is a way to make it work, just couldn't get it to go on our end. And just because it was just released, I think another really good way to highlight the insanity of this entire setup is that right now I am playing the new, at least currently, PlayStation 4 exclusive game Death Stranding on a Nintendo Switch with an Xbox One Elite 2 controller, a kind of really weird forbidden mixture of all three companies right now. And it is absolutely insane to see the visuals of this game on a little tiny Switch screen. I mean, it looks like right now I'm just watching a movie, which I am because it's the opening cinematic right now. But the point is that you're getting awesome quality on this tiny little Nintendo Switch screen thanks to being able to just play our PS4 through it. So, slightly fuzzy screen, not quite as crisp as playing on a PS4 Pro. But still, the fact that I'm playing Death Stranding on a Switch right now is mind-blowing. I gotta say, while this particular setup isn't at 100%, I love this concept, and I really wish this was a real thing. Well, it is a real thing, but a real, like, officially supported thing that works well. You know what I mean. By the way, if you're wondering about the Switch we're using in today's video, the reason why it's the color blue is because we're using a skin from today's sponsor, D-Brand. They make a whole bunch of skins in a variety of colors that are totally safe to use on your Switch, on the Joy-Cons, even for the dock. If you want to learn more, click on the link down below. Kind of like in the past when we've done other videos like this where we find weird workarounds of things to do on the Switch that you're not really supposed to do on the Switch, the main takeaway I really want to talk about here is the potential the Switch has as a system. And I think this particular function is something that a lot of people are really interested in because it's something that's kind of been rumored before, although in that case, for Xbox. Early on when we got kind of initial murmurings that Microsoft and Nintendo were going to work together, the things we actually got were support for Xbox Live for games that were multi-platform, and of course, certain first-party games making their way to the Switch, like Cuphead and Ori. But one of the things a lot of people were hoping to see as a potential part of this partnership was the idea of something like XCloud making its way to the Switch. This idea that you could use the Switch as an on-the-go handheld and stream play major first-party games for Xbox. You could get 4K style quality, awesome looking graphical games on a little tiny handheld. And while we are certainly not using the Switch's own OS to do this, we're running Android on the Switch, it's pretty clear that yes, you could use a handheld like this to be able to access streamable content, especially video games. And I think that's something that is really worth considering, because sure, there's the option to do things like playing on your phone or even playing on a tablet, but I think there's something very attractive about the idea of a dedicated handheld gaming device like the Switch being used for this, both because of its good screen size and the fact that it actually has built-on attached controls that make sense. I mean, there's a reason why we're seeing a lot of third-party accessories starting to come out that use that Switch control style as an idea for mobile platforms. Now, of course, the Switch is still a great handheld system on its own, just playing its own Switch games. This isn't me being like, oh, the Switch sucks and this is what it needs to do to be better. It's just, I think there's so much more potential for what the system can be. And for this particular example, yes, there would need to be a little more cooperation between companies that would need to play nice a little more, but honestly, I think this exact case is something that would be very beneficial to everyone involved. Now, while there are a lot of companies that are messing with this idea of game streaming, I think Microsoft is the one that is the most open to this idea and doing it with Nintendo, because they've been the most forward out of everyone lately of trying to actually work alongside other companies, and I think they're very invested in this idea of Microsoft being more of a service instead of just being the Xbox hardware. And so having something like XCloud, or even the ability to own your own library of games that you can access through the Switch, is something that would be appealing to them. And what this hack shows is that it's a concept that absolutely can work. The only question is whether or not companies actually want to make it happen.